Welcome to Mark My Words, a show that searches for the fork in the road in life, the place where the turning point in the journey of entrepreneurship and life can be found. Let's meet each other at the crossroads on Mark My Words. So recently I listened to the podcast of my two guests today, Craig and Meredith Bennett, Meredith and Craig Bennett, not to give anybody more or less of the marquee here, but I was listening to their latest episode right before I got on with them here, and it's about superpowers and mind reading, connection. They're all about connection. But the mind reading, I couldn't help but to think about the show Heroes and Matt Parkman character. And so I'm one of those weird people who I'll remember the actor's name before the character. And I kept thinking Greg Grunberg. What was his name? So I didn't know his character's name or remember until like 5 minutes ago. So if you remember Heroes and Matt Parkman, he had the ability to read minds. He was a police officer. I feel like his superpower of mind reading drove him crazy. And listening to their episode, I too remembered that I thought about this probably because of Heroes. And I was like, I don't think I would want that superpower either. And I don't know why I used all this as an intro, but I just had to do it because I thought it was a great topic. And I'm sure at one point or another, we've all wondered that. I'm sure you all would like to hear them talk rather than me. So let me just say that they are the podcast hosts, co-hosts, and producers of the Road of Life podcast. And they are also in it for you. They are heart-driven entrepreneurs whose mission it is to equip others to believe they are worthy of their dreams and help them live their best life, not just their life, but their best life as the co-founders of Road of Life Coaching. Now that I made myself do all that, welcome Craig and Meredith to Mark My Words. How you doing?
Oh, we're great. Thank you so much for having us, Mark. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, we're looking forward to this. This is gonna be exciting. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm real excited to have you guys, and there's so much uh, good that you guys are doing. You're helping people, not just people, but couples to connect. You use the word kick ass a lot. You want people to be kick ass entrepreneurs, kick ass marriage, and marypreneur, which is not a
Mhm.
word I've heard much, maybe not at all. So I appreciate the wordplay there. And usually I get this started by going back in the Wayback Machine, and we all got where we are somehow. And I know there is an interesting story on how you guys met. I mean, I don't know the story, but I'm sure there is an interesting one. And I want to you can throw that story in here as well, but I see that one of you might have studied biology and math. One of you might have studied holistic nutrition, just going off your joint LinkedIn. I'll let
Mhm.
you guys explain what might have motivated you and if you had dreamed of taking those routes early on in life. I know that's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. Well, we'll start from the beginning, and we'll make our way and touch on, I think, all the little points that you highlighted. But yeah, like we grew up believing that the default life was the way you had to live your life. So basically, go to school, get good grades, study hard, go to college, study some more, get more good grades, graduate, then go and climb the corporate ladder, get a good job, and get something with, a pension and benefits, and build a career for yourself. And so that was the upbringing that we both believed in and that we were both indoctrinated into. And so we went to school, and here's your math and biology and nutrition, and I went for psychology. And we graduated and we climbed the corporate ladder and we ended up working for the same company. And that's actually how we met. We were at the same company, and it was a retirement event. We had a couple people in the company that were getting ready to retire. I knew one of the people, she knew one of the people. So we ended up at this same event. And that's where we kind of connected and met. And from there, we built a relationship. And as we moved on a few years later, we dated, we got married, and then we were in one corporate office, and the company decided that they were going to close that office. And they said, you've got two options. One, you can stay with the company and you can move out west, further away from all the people you want to be near, but you have a job. And actually, it'll probably come with a promotion if you want to come out here. And then the other option is if you don't want to do that, then you can leave. So we had a decision to make. And being those types of people that grew up believing that you had to go to school, get good grades, and climb the corporate ladder, it was a really difficult decision for us to decide whether we were going to leave that quote unquote safe and steady kind of corporate career that we had built for ourselves, because we were actually really successful in that life. Like, we were climbing the corporate ladder, we were getting the promotions, getting the raises, we were high performers. It felt really good to be in that. But when we were given this opportunity to look at something different, because all of the things that we wanted in life were family, friends, and in fact, one of the things that came up while we were going through this decision-making process was
My dad got sick. We thought it would be my dad's last Christmas. He got cancer, it had spread. We thought it would be his last Christmas. So we actually drove 17 hours to where I'm from to spend Christmas with my dad. And it was, spoiler, that wasn't his last Christmas. We had four more Christmases with him. He actually got very, very healthy after that. But it was just very interesting that that situation gave us the perspective that we needed to be able to make that decision, because he refers to it as an opportunity now. In the moment, it was incredibly stressful. It
yeah.
did not feel like an opportunity. It felt like a kick in the gut that we had to make this big decision. We didn't know what to do. Our family all thought we should move because that's the safe, stable thing to do with how they were all raised too. But that perspective on dad's not going to live forever. He's not getting any younger. Craig's grandmother and his parents, no one's getting any younger. And if we move all the way across the country, we're going to spend a lot less time with those people. And so that was the perspective we needed to be able to make this really difficult decision. And even though we're both very type A, like to have a good plan, a solid plan before we make any giant decisions, we decided that we were going to leave the company and we didn't have a plan for what we were going to do next. But it was so interesting because we were out for a walk just talking about it. And even though we didn't have a plan, both of us just felt inside like it was the right decision. So we trusted that it was the right decision and that we would figure out what we were going to do eventually.
Because even though we were in these careers and we felt like it was basically the only way to go through life, there was something within us that was calling us to say, like, yeah, but this isn't really what makes you happy and fulfilled. Like, there was always something in there that was missing, that I'd show up for work and I'd do the job and I'd do it well. But part of me was always like,
There's
yeah,
probably
but
more.
I think there's more out there for you. And are you sure this is what you really want? And over time, I didn't really listen to that voice. I kind of just buried it. But this gave us the opportunity to really listen to it.
It was like a giant flashing exit sign off the highway we were on, right? Like we were on this default life highway, checking all the boxes, being successful by society's metrics. But then this big giant flashing exit sign said, "Hey, what if you tried something else?" And so that's what we did.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel and see a lot of parallels between my life and your life because I hit kind of the same fork in the road with my life and have used words like fulfillment and
Mm.
have had asked myself the same questions. I mean, there's nothing against the corporate life or working the corporate life. And I think many of us need to start our career that way. I think it's a good way to
Mhm.
learn about life and to learn about people. But I know for me, and I'm still in the corporate world, but I decided at one point, I left the job I was at for 10 years, had a lot of fulfillment, did a lot of good, and it was like a great, I wound up moving up a little bit into a role that I felt was great for me. It was like a leadership role. But then when I left, I kind of went back to like square one. And I'm like, okay, I am not fulfilled by this path anymore. Not near as much as I used to be. And there have been a lot of ups and downs. I'm luckily at least with a really good company at this point, but I told myself the same kind of things. Like I want more. I want to feel more fulfilled, and that's the really the core of this show is like that fork in the road, and it's great that you two kind of had each other to go on that journey of entrepreneurship and take the leap and to go for it. And I guess the next question for me is you guys made that decision. How was the transition out? Was it a very just like, we're just gonna do it? Not at all. Meredith is shaking her head.
It's
How?
it it was the opposite of smooth. It was a very bumpy ride, let's say.
Yeah.
Like for us, it was like, okay, we're leaving this corporate world behind. It's kind of quote unquote safe and secure, and we've got a steady paycheck that comes in. Let's really figure out how we're going to replace that as quickly as possible. And so that was our main goal when we left was like, let's just, so essentially we were chasing money. And I think we all know what happens when you chase money. Money becomes elusive and it's not it doesn't cooperate. It doesn't just run to you. It just runs away from you when you chase money. So what we did was we decided that okay, how we did a little bit of research. We tried to figure out okay, what's the best way to invest our resources and our knowledge and what can we do to make money as quick as possible. And we found real estate investing. Real estate was going to be because like 90% of millionaires build wealth through real estate, all this good stuff, all the statistics. So we're like, okay, real estate's it. So we start this real estate business. We get a coach, we invest in all kinds of marketing, and it's on our heart to serve people. So it's got this altruistic bend to it as well, where we're gonna help. It's a crazy housing market, and we're gonna help first-time home buyers find their home because they're having a hard time in the traditional market of buying a home. So we're gonna find properties, and anyways, it's this strategy that helps first-time home buyers get a home. And we're going through the process of building this business. And we quickly realized that we absolutely hate the work. It's not our passion. It's not what we want to be doing. And not only that, but we found that it was actually starting to impact our relationship, which is not is a non-starter for us because historically, up to this point, our relationship, we've been very intentional about building a very solid foundation. Our relationship is our superpower, and it's been the foundation for everything upon which we've built. And when we started to feel that starting to crumble a little bit, or like not crumble, but little chips are coming into the foundation, we were like, time out. What are we doing? We need to have a very open and honest and difficult conversation about what we're doing. Because up to this point, like I said, we were just chasing money. We didn't actually do the work to understand what it was that we wanted our life to be. We knew what we didn't want, which was the corporate life because it wasn't fulfilling us anymore. And to your point, that's not a knock on the corporate world. The corporate world was fantastic for us. We've got nothing but good things to say. We just outgrew it. It wasn't for us anymore. But we knew what we didn't want. And now we were trying to figure out what we did want. And we didn't do that work. So we decided then in that moment that we're not going to continue with this business. We're going to put that on pause. We're going to put that on the back burner and we're going to focus on what it is that we want to be in this world, who we want to be, what we want our life to look like. And so we then went on a journey of personal growth and self-development that took us on a crazy road trip that
It's amazing, right? When you don't do the work of deciding what you actually want your life to look like and who you want to be, and you try to start a business, of course, that business is not going to get you to where you don't even know you want to go. You need to do that work first. But because we were able to be successful in the corporate world without doing that work, without figuring out who we wanted to be and what we wanted our life to be like our trajectory in our corporate careers wasn't capped by our level of personal growth and development like it is as an entrepreneur. And we just didn't know that at the beginning. Like we jumped into the airplane, we did not know how to build a parachute, and we are making all the mistakes on the way down as we try to figure it out.
it's really crazy how much I did not think about how much the mindset and personal growth was going to have on building a business. Like you're basically limited, your business, everything about what you build is limited by basically your own mindset and everything about you. And I did not give that level of credit when we started this journey.
No.
I like really thought we were just going to like jump out of corporate and build a business and keep on going.
Totally. And he talks about that, we in that first business, we were chasing money, so we stopped and we focused on us. He skipped over the second time we tried that again to chase money. We ended up driving 20 hours to try a grilled cheese sandwich because we were going to invest in a grilled cheese franchise. And thankfully, before we invested our life savings into that, we did realize we were making the same mistake again, chasing money again. And so we finally learned that lesson. And that's when we went kind of all in on our personal growth and development. And through this process, we've actually gotten really, we've done a lot of work on our health and vitality too. And so we no longer eat bread or cheese. And so we're really glad that we don't own a grilled cheese franchise at this moment in our lives. So it's funny how where you end up when you look back, it makes perfect sense. But when we were standing at that fork in the road looking forward, we had no idea how we would have gotten to this point. It's amazing all the mistakes we had to make to figure out our path here.
Well, first of all, I commend you for giving up bread and cheese because
Thank you.
that
Yeah, that
is
wasn't
like
easy.
very, very difficult to do. So
Very.
you deserve a ton of credit for that. I also think this is like the perfect conversation with one side being me, being super cautious. I'm still in the corporate world, even though I've been kind of like building this for a long time. I personally feel like I would like to figure out something else to complement my business or to bring into it. But I've been like very cautious about it. Obviously, life gets in the way. And then we have your side where you guys kind of shot at the hip a little more. And, you learned your lessons much like I've been learning mine. So I'm not here to say what's right or wrong, but I think it paints a good picture of, the positives and the negatives because there are negatives to how I'm doing it because I think maybe I'm being perhaps maybe a little too cautious. Maybe I need to, as Craig kind of pointed out about thinking about your own game plan and assessing things and maybe looking at the big picture. That might be something I need to revisit. But I really admire that you guys like took a chance on something and it shows how important it is to be passionate about your work because I too have thought about real estate and I passed. I'm like, no, I don't know anything. I have no passion for it. And I know it's a way to make money. There's a lot of ways that you can make money in a business or just working remotely or whatever. But you gotta have a passion for it. And I feel like by making those mistakes, you guys were able to regroup and figure out what is your passion, which to this point, what you're doing now, you guys do it very well and with big hearts and passion. And to me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, appreciate you saying that. And to your point around, the dichotomy between, just jumping out of the parachute, building it on the way down, and then having a side project that you build while you still have like there's the pros and cons to both, right? Like it's a lot less stressful to do it with when you have income coming in, and then you don't, and then you're not forced to have this scarcity mindset around, oh God, where's the next dollar going to come from? How am I going to pay my bills kind of thing? And you can still build something pretty solid on the side. So I think it's really around the risk tolerance for the individual that's going on that journey, right? There's something to be said for burning the ships and just going all in. It forces you to do things that maybe you wouldn't otherwise want to do. Take you out of your comfort zone a little bit quicker
Very fast.
to push you faster. So there's pros and cons to both sides. And I think it really just does boil down to the preference or the risk tolerance for the person that's involved.
And I think especially with both routes require a lot of discipline, because you have to do what you need to do, whether you feel like doing it or not, because otherwise it doesn't get done when you're building your own business. Like it doesn't matter what you feel like doing, things have to get done. And I think especially in the building the side hustle and then doing the transition, you have to be extra disciplined on that path, and hold yourself accountable to a date or to a plan that you've got in place, because it becomes really easy to get comfortable and say, yeah, no, I'll do that in 6 months. Actually, I'll do that in a year. I'll quit my, like, it becomes a little easier to feel settled and comfortable where you are, and to keep pushing yourself out of that comfort zone is tough to do. And so I think both require an insane amount of discipline and discomfort. And to your point, it's about knowing yourself and which path is going to set you up for the most success. We needed to burn the ships. We just did.
Yeah, and either way you slice it, you're going to go through discomfort. It doesn't matter which route you take. All routes lead through fear and discomfort.
Yeah.
And so the quicker you rip off the Band-Aid, sometimes the better. It just depends on the person. But yeah, that's basically our journey, was to jump out of the plane, build on the way down, mess up a bunch of times, then go on this road trip, find out grilled cheese wasn't for us, and then we backed into relationship coaching.
Mhm.
It's a weird journey.
It found us more than we found it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as weird as you might think, just based on the fact of you guys made mistakes, you took a look at it, and you adjusted. Because I feel like when you guys are at least in it together, but whether you're marriedpreneur, solopreneur, you have a business partner, whatever it is, you're going to make mistakes. I know I've made mistakes, and whenever I make a mistake with what I'm doing, I'm usually pretty gutted because it's a reflection of me. And I know it's a little different because not only is your business is a reflection of both of you, but you're trying to maintain a marriage too. And I can't imagine how challenging, I won't use the word difficult, but that's probably very challenging. And I'll let you guys speak to that since you're the experts in that department. But yeah, go for it.
It's got some layers of complexity to
Yeah.
it, right? Like we like to say that we have multiple relationships under our relationship umbrella. Like first and foremost, we're best friends. So we just like hanging out. We have a very best friend style relationship, and we have a business partner relationship, and we have a married partner relationship. And so it's kind of a little bit about knowing what hat are you wearing at any given time? Because when we're in business mode and we're talking things out as business partners, we need to make sure we're wearing the business partner hat then, and not the married partner hat. But then later in the evening, when we're married again, we're always married, but when we're wearing the married hats, if we go into business partner mode, then that's not going to work then. And so it's being really clear about the boundaries and the roles that you're in. And we try really hard to create a boundary at the end of the day, because as entrepreneurs, especially married entrepreneurs, it's easy for your business to take up your entire life. Every corner of every aspect, it can expand to take up all the air. And so we are really intentional about cutting that off, because there's always more work to do, but what can be done tomorrow, and then making a boundary. And usually it means leaving the house and going for a walk so that we can kind of finish any thoughts for business and then kind of get into the rest of our evening and make dinner and hang out and do whatever we're going to do for the evening. But it helps to create a bit of a boundary between the roles that you're playing so that you can remember what hat you're wearing and act accordingly.
So talk a little bit about when you actually developed some more success and how did you regroup? How did you find success and what made you decide to become coaches?
So we were going to all these personal growth events and retreats and workshops and learning about ourselves and what we wanted out of life. And it was at these events that people would come up to us and they would see this journey that we were on together. They would say, "It's really cool that you're doing this together. It seems like you have a very strong relationship." Like they could see that from the interactions we were having with people and with each other at these events. And they would ask us, either it would be a couple that were doing this together and be like, "Oh man, it's so stressful. How do you guys manage it?" Or it'd be a solopreneur or someone who is doing this on their own and wants to, I can't get my wife or my husband to do this with me. Like, do you have anything that you can help us with? And so we just started getting these questions around relationships and entrepreneur and this journey we were on. And so we started answering them, and it felt really cool to do that. But there wasn't really any rhyme or like there wasn't any like meat behind it. Like there wasn't any like process or anything behind it. It was just we were just talking to them. And then it was at an event that one of the organizers of the event said, "Hey, I want you guys to get on stage at my next event and talk about relationships. What you have is extremely special. You have a lot of value to offer my audience, and I need you on my stage." And so we are like, "Okay, cool." And so it was in preparation for that talk that we started to kind of process ties. I don't know what the word is.
Codify almost.
Codify,
Yeah.
codify. Thank you. Codify our process of what relationships are and how to go about this whole thing that we're doing, marriage. And so we created this talk and we had the talk and it was very well received. And that formed the foundation for what our business is now, because that's when we realized that, oh, we really do, like people are noticing this. We have a superpower. Our superpower is, and we kind of knew it anyway, that our superpower is our relationship. We just didn't realize that was the gift that we could give the world. We didn't make that connection weirdly enough. Like we were too busy. I mean, I guess maybe focused on chasing the dollars and grilled cheese franchises and all this other stuff that we missed the forest for the trees. We didn't actually see what was staring us right in the face was that our marriage was actually the superpower and the gift that we can offer the world.
And we didn't even see it when people would ask us.
Yeah.
Like it happened over and over and over and over again. And even though we really enjoyed helping people, we still didn't see it until somebody else said, "Hey, look over here. There's something special here. Pay attention and share it with my audience." And that's when we were like, huh, oh, maybe we do have something we can offer here. And so it was that was I would also kind of a fork in the road moment where we leaned into our superpower and took the road that we never even noticed before.
Yeah, so we
Sometimes,
dug in. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
no, no, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
was just gonna say, and that's just when we really dug into it. We doubled down on our on relationship coaching and really codifying the process and making and then tweaking it and testing it and going to couples and helping them and then testing it again and really just verifying everything and codifying
Yes,
everything.
it's still a process of trial and error. The beginning was still like getting to coaching was a trial and error process and learning the lessons along the way. And then when we got started, it evolved and continued down that iterative type of process for a while as we figured out, what is our philosophy and how do we help people well. And so it's been a really interesting learning journey for us for sure.
Sometimes what is best for us is right in front of our face and we don't see it.
Yeah.
So I have been trying to take a look at myself in that way as well. And that's kind of helped me to figure out some things and to look into what I want to do in the future and how I want to grow. And I feel like there are a lot of people like you guys who just one day said, it's right in front of me. The answer to how I can serve people is right there. And I like that you alluded to the fact that you are here to serve people because I almost feel like the first time around, you may have been thinking a little more of how you can serve yourself and your wallet, which I know that might sound insulting, but I promise you it's not, because I feel like that it's natural to feel that way. But I
Totally.
feel like,
And I think it's about getting to a place where you're not in scarcity so that you can serve more people.
right,
Because if you don't have yourself taken care of, if your cup's not full, then you're always worried about over here and you don't have as much to give someone else. So I think it's really about making sure that your oxygen mask is on first so
no,
that you can then go and help others.
totally agree. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta take care of yourself and your own cup first, and that is very important. And I feel like sometimes people don't actually see how they can serve others. And for me, it'd be easy to just say, well, I'm going to start this show because I like this topic and I want to have certain types of people on my show, which is true. And those are all things I really want. But I have learned myself that there are a lot of ways that I can serve people by doing this. And there are
Yeah.
things I can add about my own journey, and my journey is very unique. I've gone through a lot. So I make sure that when it's appropriate, I mention those things as much as I can, because I not only want to be successful and do well and have really great guests like you guys come on my show, but I also want people to listen and be inspired to start a business, which is why it was important for me to have you to not only just one of you come on and speak, but to have both of you here is a gift for me and hopefully for the audience, because it's not often that I have marriedpreneurs, married couples on this show. So it's really great for people to learn about all the things that you've been through and the fact that you have such an amazing relationship. I can just hit end this call right now and would not have any more questions about the strength of your relationship after everything you've been through. So it's like for me. This really, I hope, not only helps me but helps all kinds of people. And I'm kind of just rambling now, but which I'm sure you're
No,
getting used to.
but what you said earlier about like the gift that like this is a gift that you give the world. Like what you're doing and bringing a whole bunch of voices onto your podcast and then dispersing it to your audience is an absolute gift. Like they get to learn from you and your experience and the conversations you have and the questions you ask your guests so that they can better their lives in some way, shape, or form, and whatever that means for them. If it's a business, great. If it's a relationship, great. If it's just their own personal mindset, whatever it is, their health, but you're giving them that gift. That's awesome. We need more people like you. The world needs more Marks in the world for sure.
Well, we need more Craig and Meredith, and we need more of your podcast, which it sounds like you guys got a lot of good feedback about the strength of your relationship, how you're being marriedpreneurs together, and you still, love each other and like each other, and you have gone through this journey together. When did it hit you that you could serve even more by creating this awesome podcast?
I think it was a year ago, a
October.
little bit, 14,
October.
14,
Yep.
13, 14 months ago. We're part of a community. It's called the Final Percent Community, and actually everyone should check it out because it's a really great community that people can. It basically inspires you to do big things. And the guy that put that together, he suggested that we do a podcast, and so we dove in and we
Well,
were
time out.
scared out of our minds
Yes.
actually to do that. It was like the first big like put yourself out there and really on a regular occurrence be in the public eye, if you will, and just put your theories out there, your voice out there, your story out there. It's scary.
It's vulnerable, right? Like you just start talking and you hope people listen and you hope people like it and you hope it adds value for people, but you have no idea. You're talking out into the world and you hope that it's resonating with someone. And to Craig's point, like he suggested it and we were terrified because of the level of vulnerability. Because what do we have to say? Who would listen to us? All those usual negative voices immediately come up that you then have to sort of reframe. But what helped, I think, was Greg put us on his podcast first.
Right.
So he's got we don't even have a podcast yet. He's got a much bigger audience than we do, obviously, than our non-existent audience. And so getting to go on his podcast first and kind of realizing that it's just a conversation. Like it's not as scary as we've made it out to be in our mind. So that was a nice little baby step, getting to be guests on his podcast first and realizing that, okay, we can have a conversation. It's not so bad. And we have each other to talk to on our podcast. And so it was a little bit of a bite the bullet moment when we recorded that first episode or two I don't know what we're doing, but we're just doing it and we'll figure it out as we go. And so it was terrifying, but also exciting. And we just had our 52nd episode, I don't know, about 8 weeks ago now or so.
Yeah,
And that was a celebration, right? 'Cause we put one out every week. Thank you. So we haven't missed a week, 52 weeks in a row of putting ourselves out there, putting our philosophy out there, our stories out there. And so we were really excited that, we're a year in and
yeah, I think we're
going
on
strong.
episode 60 now, maybe coming up.
60's coming out this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was I don't know that we launched it immediately when he gave us that advice. I think maybe like we were a little bit like, okay,
Took us some time.
Yeah, it took us a minute or two to actually get comfortable with that idea, but eventually we came around to, you know what, it's really good practice for us to codify some things and get some stories and just practice vulnerability and putting yourself out there. Because it's not easy. It's the fear of judgment, the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, all of those fears all really boil down to the fear of rejection, really, at the end of the day. But yeah, it's still a learning journey.
Yeah.
And this is where I jump in and talk about my story a little bit because I kind of went through the same kind of things that you guys went through. And with me being born with cleft lip and palate, other issues, and going through life, people saying, well, you suck and you sound weird, you don't have the right look. It was a big deal for me when people started coming up to me and saying, oh, you should like create content online. Maybe you should do a podcast. I'm like, what? Really? No, not me. Nobody wants to listen to me. But I heard it enough times that I was like, all right, this might be crazy, but maybe I'll give it a shot and I'll do it and we'll see what happens. We'll see if I like doing it. We'll see if people take me seriously. We'll see if people even want to be on this show, whatever this show is, which I just simply decided to dedicate it to people like you and all 100 or so other guests that I've had, just entrepreneurs, because frankly, at that point, I didn't know what else to do. And yeah, it's a real learning process where you don't really know what you're doing with it when you start. Lord knows I didn't. I didn't have like intro music or anything like that. I was just like, well, I'm here, take me or leave me. And if I keep doing it and I keep getting people on, great. If I don't, then oh well, that was a phase in my life and I'm going to move on. Craig looks like he wants to say something. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I love that because the people that are like just put yourself out there, be authentically you, and the people that are meant for you will find you and they'll stick with you. And the people that aren't, who cares? They're gone. Then they'll go find their own, tribe of people or community of people. But I love that you were just willing to say, you know what, I'm just gonna put it out there and we'll see where the chips fall. Like the people will find me that are meant for me. It's awesome. Love it.
I've always been a little weird in that way because I've had people I feel my whole life, whether it was passive aggressive, whatever, however you came at me. And it's not like people were aggressively beating me up. I mean, just aggressive with your words, I guess. But no matter how you came at me, I had every right to just never give anything like this a chance. And I've always just been crazy and like believing in myself. I don't even know why I have believed in myself because I can remember kindergarten, first grade, you know, being alone in the schoolyard, or I know one particular thing that happened at my school. I was at a Catholic school for the first few years, and they, uh, I wound up either volunteering or getting volunteered to read a weekly mass. There were issues with it from parents and one of the nuns, and they like didn't want me to do it, but my mom, some other people stood up for me, and I wound up doing it. And then those same people were like, "Wow, you did great." So I don't know if it was experiences like that where I saw through everything. I was quite young, but I've had experiences like that my whole life, and I don't know why I believe in myself. I just do.
Love it.
Mhm.
Never lose it
Yeah.
because a lot of people that there's like a epidemic of unworthiness in the world. People don't believe in themselves enough. So it's refreshing and it's awesome to hear that you do and that you're willing to do the things that light you up, that fulfill you, that speak to you, even though it puts you out there and puts you in the public eye and that opportunity for rejection is there, but you believe in yourself enough that you're willing to just push through it.
And inspire other people along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean that's what keeps me going. And I know another part of this story that I tell a lot is that once in a while I'll meet somebody who will say, "Oh, I'd love to do a podcast or I'd love to make content, but I don't sound right," or I don't. I'm like, "What? Are you kidding me?" Like I have such a like goofy voice, and maybe as I get older, it doesn't sound quite as goofy, but in my head, I'm like, I feel like I have the goofiest voice, and
I
yet,
think we
We
all
all
feel that
do.
way. I think we
yeah,
all feel that way a little bit. Like my voice, I feel the same way about my voice. When I hear it on a podcast, I'm like, oh, that's my voice. My voice inside my head sounds better. I wish it was that voice.
yeah. And just for the record, you guys sound totally cool, so you don't have to worry about how you
Well, thank
sound.
you.
Appreciate you. So do
But
you.
well, I appreciate that, but I've been through the same kind of thing. And when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, so wait a minute. If these people who sound totally cool and look totally fine, they look like they should be here, and they're going through that imposter syndrome, then what am I doing? Maybe I need to get past that imposter as well
Mhm.
and just push through and go for it. Because a lot of what you guys are doing is not only is it inspiring and you're doing it with a lot of grace, but even you guys have had like your imposter syndrome moments and all that kind of stuff. I think many of us go through it, and we all find a way to fight through it. Personally, I don't know how. I'm just very strong minded. Like, I guess I just don't care what other people are saying when it comes down to it. I could spend the rest of our time analyzing that. But in order to have a business, or especially to make content, you gotta get past some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully we, all three of us, are good advocates for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was incredibly scary. Like you nailed it. Like we both felt incredible imposter syndrome, but if you want to help people, it's got to not be about you. You got to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
It's not about you at all. You're putting content out to the world, the podcast, our Instagram, whatever it is. We're putting it out to the world to help that one person who needs us. It's not about us. And we had to really go there that it's got nothing to do with us. We're just trying to help somebody. Otherwise, we would put nothing out ever. because we would be so in our own way, and so who are we to be doing this? There all those messages. It's it's gotta not be about you. And so it takes a little bit to wrap your brain around that. Like for us coming from the corporate where it felt all about us all the time in your career to getting to the point where you're doing this for others. So it's your content's not about you, it's about the person you're trying to talk to.
So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about starting out fresh. You talked a little bit about the podcast. Didn't hear much about starting off fresh with the current business. How do you start off fresh and get into the groove of like, this is how we're going to help people. This is how we're going to serve them. What did it take to really like find your groove, maybe separate or not separate your relationship from the other couples and people that you're helping? And that's pretty open-ended. I'll let you answer that however you want.
So I would say that it's an evolution. Like when we were asked to speak on that stage about relationships, we started by building our philosophy on relationships. And so that became the blueprint for our relationship program. And so we had this program, but then since then we've added and changed, and we're always changing it based on things we learn. We continuously go to personal growth events, and we're continuously learning and adopting different philosophies and adding on and changing. And so it's been an evolution. And one thing I'll say is that it's been really helpful to surround ourselves with other people on this journey so that we can learn from them and we pick up little nuggets based on business or based on, mindset or something else. But just being around people that are on this journey who get the struggles that you go through on a daily basis has been a game changer for us.
Yeah, because as an entrepreneur, you sometimes feel like you're on an island. Like you sometimes feel like you're all alone, especially currently where a lot of it's remote and over Zoom and different things. Like it does sometimes feel like you're all alone when you're trying to build, even together. Like even though there's two of us, it still sometimes feels so isolating that like our family and friends don't get it. And like, you feel like you're all alone trying to build a business. So having a community of people uh, that you can just feel a part of, that you can bounce ideas off of, that people, oh, I'm having success by doing this. And so you can just share what's working, share what's not working, and just feel like you're in it. You're all building your own business, but you understand what each other are going through. So you feel like you're in it together. It's the biggest game changer,
And I
I
would
think.
say that that's one thing that we adopted early was the mindset of get around the people who are doing the things that you want to be doing or that have done the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And so we've been really intentional about surrounding ourselves with different people that have built businesses or who are coaches or who have health and vitality that we want, like different people. We've surrounded ourselves with a lot of great people. So I would say that that is one of the, if I would say that is the most important thing that we've done on this journey.
Yeah, I think that's a cheat code. I think one, it helps you find the most, I'm not going to say shortcut because I don't think there's a shortcut in life, but it helps keep you on the most direct route to get where you're going. And it helps you feel like you're included, like the human need for inclusion and belonging, instead of feeling like you're off on this left turn all by yourself, trying to figure out this thing all by yourself. If you've got other people also figuring their things out together and people who've already done it, and I think that's the biggest cheat code to building a business and building the life that you want, whether it's relationships, business, health, whatever it is, surrounding yourself with people who've done what you want to do so that you can learn from them and not take the paths you don't need to take so you can get there more directly.
And they just celebrate you, and they're there to like pick you up when you're falling down or when you're not feeling your best, but they're also there to celebrate the wins. And when you get that level of appreciation and support, it carries you to the next goal or the next milestone. It propels you forward so that you don't get stale or you don't get, complacent in where you or what you've done. You've got people that are cheering you on and holding you accountable to the things that you said you're going to do. And so it's just a holistic approach to like support and celebration and community that just it's rocket fuel.
Yeah.
I think you both really nailed it. Community, finding people that you connect with who are on this journey with you, it means everything because
Mhm.
as somebody on this end who has had a life of just kind of marching to the beat of their own drum, doing their own thing, I myself have found that finding people who are like you, who are going after the same goals is hugely important. And it's one of my favorite things about doing this show is meeting people like you guys who I'm like, wow, they are committed to a particular business and thing that's totally, I guess I shouldn't say totally, but it's a little bit different, maybe not so much the podcasting, but there are a lot of differences, but boy, there's a lot of similarities. And it
Yeah.
really can energize you to be around people who are going after the same goals and can lift you up if you're feeling down or unsure. Because I've had a lot of days where I have gone into Zoom to do this show and I may not have been feeling as good or maybe just run down just because I don't have the energy that day or whatever. It
Mhm.
might not have anything to do with what I'm going through. But once I do it and I end the episode, I am completely energized. And that's what it's about for me. And I know you guys are huge on connecting. I know you use that word a lot.
Yeah.
So connecting is very important. And I know that's really important to you guys as well. If you want to talk about what connecting and just not only for you guys, but for everybody that you work with, what is the importance of connection?
Well, connection's the foundation for all of your relationships, but specifically in a marriage or in a romantic relationship, what we hear most often when people come to work with us is we're feeling disconnected. We feel like roommates. We're walking on eggshells, like that connection between you that used to be really close and tight. It's gone. And it goes because we get complacent and we don't do the little things every day that keep that connection strong. And I really believe it's a human evolution thing. Like we have a innate human need for belonging and inclusion and connection. And so we need that. We need to feel that in our community, in our whatever groups we have, but especially in our primary relationship, that connection is so, so important because I mean, firmly believe that's the rocket fuel for your life. That's the cheat code for your life when you're feeling deeply connected to your spouse, to your partner, and you're not spending that valuable time and energy always constantly repairing, walking on eggshells, arguing, trying to fix the relationship. Then you have all this extra energy that you aren't devoting to fixing the relationship. You have that extra energy to put to every other aspect of your life that you're trying to level up. And the other person has all that extra energy too. And you have this synergistic energy that you can use like rocket fuel to go wherever you want to go in life. It's like it's a game changer.
It all
Yeah,
starts
I
with
feel
connection.
like you guys are like a real solid model for anybody who, whether you're a marriedpreneur or you're just a married couple that is feeling disconnected, I think you guys are an excellent model of how to stay connected. And I feel like you guys are really good at thinking about like the big picture, just like stepping back a little bit and, communicating. I mean, you guys are like so open with each other, so that's not easy to find. And I think the fact that you do all of these things and are so committed to connection, communication, all these important uh, attributes of what can make a successful relationship, I think speaks to why you're able to do all this stuff that you do. And I knew it just from one episode of your podcast. I'm like, yeah, they got it down pretty good. So I appreciate you guys coming on here and sharing all this. Much like one of the reviews on your show said, I feel like this could easily be a part two, but I'm afraid we are getting short on time. I don't want to hold you guys up. So I will give you a chance to tell everybody how they can find your coaching, your podcast, how they can find you, whatever else you want to share.
Sure, thanks. We had a lovely time, so thank you for having us, and it was wonderful. If anyone wants to reach us, we are most active on Instagram. We're always sharing tools, strategies, things on Instagram, and we're at Meredith and Craig. And then you can find our podcast, the Road of Life podcast, on pretty much everywhere that you can listen to podcasts and on YouTube. So that's probably the two best resources that we have out there.
Yep. And I mentioned the group that we're a part of, and if anyone's interested in finding a community, and it's a free Facebook group. It's on Facebook. It's free. It's called the Final Percent Network, and it's just a place to go for community celebrations, wins.
And we go live in there and share relationship strategies too. So there's stuff in there.
There's
about that.
lives, different coaches go in there with different live trainings, just motivation, mindset, relationships,
Living your best
business,
life.
just living your best life. So if anyone's interested in that, I encourage and invite everyone to go there. It's not our group, we're a part of it, but it's been such a game changer for us that we feel compelled to share it with the world. So it's been super helpful for us. So
the Final Percent Network.
yeah, the Final Percent Network on Facebook. Yeah.
Well, one thing I can speak to, thank you for sharing all that. Going live is a bit intimidating, and that's something I've been working on more. I'm hoping to do more live episodes in 2025 if I can maybe figure out my schedule more. So, yeah, I admire you for doing things live because live can be, it really is just the same as doing this, except you're live and you can't delete anything. I mean, I guess you could, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. I appreciate it. Again, this was Craig and Meredith, Meredith and Craig. They are the co-founders of Road of Life Coaching, and they are the podcast hosts and producers of Road of Life Podcasts. Thank you for being on Mark My Words. I appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
having us,
much.
Marc.
All right. That is all we have for this time. I will
That's it.
see you soon. Thanks again for being here, Craig and Meredith. And I'm Mark Schmidt. This is Mark My Words. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to go on a journey with me into entrepreneurship and life on Mark My Words. If you would like to learn more about me and the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt or connect with me on Instagram at Nimrod79. Video episodes of Mark My Words, as well as other content, can also be found on the Mark My Words YouTube page. Entrepreneurship can be quite the roller coaster ride. It can be a bit isolating and intimidating, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's meet here next time at the Crossroads on another episode of Mark My Words.